I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Brian Wilson.
And joining us on the line right now is Eleanor Clift, who covers politics for the Daily Beast, and she's a regular panelist, of course, on the McLaughlin Group. Eleanor, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to talk to you again.
It's good to have you on the program. Okay, so we want to have you on because you've written an article saying, here's how Hillary could fix her trust deficit. And let me just give people some background in case they're not familiar with the recent polls. They did some polls, for example, in some battleground states, Colorado, Iowa, Virginia. And overwhelmingly across the board, they found that Hillary Clinton is underwater on issues of trust and honesty. For example, in Virginia, only 39% of those surveyed believe that she is honest and trustworthy. 55% of those did not. So how did she run into this problem? What is her problem? And in your estimation, what would you do to fix it?
Well, I called some political analysts, some academics, and some pollsters to try to get their sense of what's going on. I think the fact that she's lost ground in this area, as Secretary of State, she was viewed as, sort of the queen of all politicians because she wasn't seen as a politician. So her numbers did come down basically to human level after she left government. But all of the scandals and pseudo-scandals about emails and Benghazi and all of that have basically taken a toll. But when you look at what she faces, people think that she's competent. They think she has the credentials to be president. They think they don't think she's quite a human being. So she needs to make that emotional connection with the voters.
You're suggesting then that honesty and trustworthiness is not a final deciding factor with some voters?
Well, Charlie Cook, who's a veteran political handicapper here in Washington, basically says candidates are big packages. She's got a lot of attributes, and remember, Bill Clinton was elected and reelected, and he never had great trust numbers. Remember Slick Willie and all that.
Right.
So I don't think it's the deciding factor, and also it's compared to what? I mean, any of her potential rivals don't look so hot either in that category, and I think in a way we all bear responsibility for that as to how we kind of take apart the people in public life these days.
Well, you mentioned the scandals and pseudo-scandals, as you put it. Isn't Mrs. Clinton's response to those scandals kind of a contributing factor here as to how people view her? She's been very controlled. She doesn't have much access to the media, and when she does answer direct questions, it sort of seems to open up a whole lot of other questions. For instance, the latest interview with CNN where she said, these emails, well, I wasn't under subpoena. Well, it turns out there were subpoenas involved with this. So how much of this is really self-inflicted?
Well, a lot of it is, they're self-enforced errors, and it grows out of her long time in public life. She's cautious. She's controlling. Yes, you can accuse her of all those things, but she also brings a lot of positive qualities. And again, compared to what? And Democrats have kind of been looking around. Some of them are enamored of Bernie Sanders, who certainly speaks from a well of authenticity, although I think more Democrats than not don't quite envision him getting the nomination or being president. They don't dislike Hillary. They think they just want to see what else is out there, and of course her vulnerability in the polls has basically increased the chatter about Joe Biden.
Eleanor, wouldn't the better way to go about this, if you were Hillary, would be to actually come clean about the things that you have not told the truth about? I mean, she did not tell the truth about whether or not she had classified information on her server. She did not tell the truth when she said, I only did this because I wanted to have only one device to handle my emails. She goes on and on and on. I mean, there are a lot of things that she has said on the record that turn out to get like 4 Pinocchios from the people who do that kind of thing.
Well, I think she would argue that she didn't send anything knowingly on her that was classified on her email. Now, you've seen how the government operates. A lot of stuff is classified. Some of it was classified after the fact. I follow this stuff, and I even find it hard to make sense of it. I just don't think all of this ongoing chatter is going to change any minds. People who were not going to vote for Hillary Clinton are still not going to vote for her.
Well,
and people who love her are still going to vote for her, and it's those folks in the middle, and there really aren't that many anymore. People are fierce partisans these days.
Well, I mean, I follow this stuff too, and the email thing is pretty easy to follow. There were 5 agencies that now have had information that has been compromised as a result of the lax security that they had in her homemade Costco server there in Chappaqua.
Well, as I recall, the State Department server was hacked. I don't think there's been I don't think the Clinton home brewed one was hacked. I don't know that anything. I just don't think the smoking gun is out there. But everybody's going to keep writing about it and talking about it. But again, I think the public really wants to hear about the issues. I know they're boring to the media, but for a lot of Democrats, she's in all the right places on the issues, and they want to elect her. And every other contender, we're going to go over their background with a fine-tooth comb, and nobody's going to look that great when the process is over.
Okay, I do want to ask you. You said that the voters care about the issues. Well, you talk about Bernie Sanders. He does resonate with a lot of the grassroots voters. I would argue many of the voters who put Barack Obama in office and defeated Hillary Clinton in 2008. And I think it centers around this one question that's been making the rounds. Let me play it for you.
What is the difference between a Democrat and a socialist?
What is the difference between a Democrat and a socialist? And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, given 2 chances now with Chris Matthews and then with Chuck Todd yesterday, hasn't been able to come up with an answer. You're a proud LBJ-style liberal Democrat. Can you give me an answer?
Yeah, I guess a socialist would have nationalized the banks, which Barack Obama did not do. I guess a socialist would have had the single-payer system, which actually a lot of people on both sides of the political spectrum think Medicare for all would make more sense. Get the insurance companies out of the deal. I think we live in a capitalist society, but we understand that there have to be restraints, and the income inequality has gotten all out of whack. And you have Republicans talking about this issue as well. They don't seem to offer a lot of solutions, but they talk about it because they know the voters are disturbed about the direction our economics are going.
Yeah,
but the banks weren't punished enough. Individuals, maybe a socialist would have called up more individuals to take blame for the collapse of our economy.
Okay.
So I think there are differences. But,
so Bernie Sanders calls himself a Democrat, and he's running. Calls himself a socialist. He's running as a Democrat, and the grassroots voters in Iowa seem to love him. I mean, the crowds are really coming out.
When he describes how he views socialists, and that is a government that makes sure that people have access to health and don't have to worry about losing all their worldly goods if they get sick. I mean, the way he describes socialism, that aspect of socialism, is very appealing, and we have a lot of it in this country. And one of the debates in 2016 will be, one side wanting to trim these programs and probably the other side wanting to expand them.
All right, Eleanor, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you for joining us.
All righty.
Yeah, don't be a stranger. There's going to be a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to have lots
of
of stuff to talk about.